Hey there guys, how are you today, and welcome to my preview of the 2018 British Grand Prix, which is taking place this weekend. The final Grand Prix of the triple header. We've had the French Grand Prix 2 weeks ago, Austrian Grand Prix this last weekend, and now the British Grand Prix coming up this weekend. The home race for so many of the teams, Lewis Hamilton's home race, and ultimately my home race. I love the British Grand Prix. I'm super excited. I'm sure a lot of you are too. If you're going, I know a few people are. Tell me, maybe send me some pictures, tell me what it's like, tell me what corners you're going to be at. And I hope you guys, whether you watch it at the track or on television, really enjoy. But now let's get on to my preview of the 2018 British Grand Prix. So Ferrari coming to this weekend having taken over the lead of the constructors following Mercedes' double DNF at the Austrian Grand Prix. And also Vettel is now leading the Drivers' Championship by a single point. So they come in after a successful race and they'll be hoping for a great race at Silverstone. Of course, a lot of the home fans won't be hoping that, but Ferrari will. And they do have a lot of support in Britain, to be fair. The team will also be hoping for a better race than they had at Silverstone last year, where, if you remember, both of their drivers, Raikkonen and then Vettel, got a puncture right at the end of the race in the last few laps, really ruined their final result. I think Raikkonen still managed to get onto the podium, but Vettel only finished in P7, something like that. And I guess Vettel will want to beat Hamilton on Lewis's home turf. I mean, that's what it's all about. It is a psychological sport, and beating Hamilton on his home turf could be a good way to mess with Hamilton's head, I guess. Then obviously Kimi Raikkonen's position is still increasingly under threat, and there's lots of doubt about it, with lots of rumours about Charles Leclerc taking over for next season. I'm not so sure he is quite ready yet. I think he is fantastic, but I think he needs a bit more experience. And there's even been talk of a mid-season switch, which I think is a bit ridiculous. And I think he should be moved maybe to Haas for next season, and then Ferrari for 2020. Mercedes will obviously want a stronger performance than they had in Austria, but ultimately they have dominated at Silverstone over the last few years, with Lewis Hamilton taking win after win after win, and even in 2013, Nico Rosberg won. So they are the dominant team at Silverstone, and they'll be hoping that pattern continues this weekend. Obviously, as it is his home Grand Prix, Hamilton will want victory this weekend, even though he hardly spends any time in Britain, for tax reasons, I think. But, you know, if he wins this Grand Prix, he would surely have to be basically called the King of Silverstone. It would be his 6th victory at the circuit, in the same way as he has had so many victories at Montreal and Hungary. Why not have it at Silverstone? He should be the King of Silverstone if he wins this Grand Prix. And I know this isn't just F1 based, but imagine if England win their football match on the same day as Hamilton gets pole position. This country will go absolutely crazy. Looking forward to it. I guess the team has to do well, obviously, to recover the points they lost in Austria, and they'll be hoping for at least better reliability this weekend. Bottas has generally performed well on this circuit in the past. Remember in 2015 when the Williams got ahead of both Mercedes at the start of the race, and he had a very good performance. But I guess he really needs some luck to come his way if he wants to take victory this weekend. But if I'm going to make a prediction, I can't see beyond a Hamilton pole and victory at the British Grand Prix. Obviously Red Bull come to this Grand Prix on the back of their fairly shock victory at their home race at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. And I guess they'll be hoping for another great performance. Their cars should be suited to the circuit with lots of high downforce, fast corners. Although it is also quite power heavy, which could hurt them with their Renault engine. Although we'll have to see what will happen with that in 2019 when they use the Honda engine. So Verstappen has apparently turned the corner according to the team. And you know, it's been a few races now. He's had clean races. But I think basically since the Spanish Grand Prix, his form has certainly improved. And ultimately, this weekend could be further proof of that. He had a great victory in Austria, even if it was a little bit lucky. But you know what? F1 is lucky. That's a sport we're in. That's a sport we love. And I think the unpredictability of it is why we love the sport. Qualifying will also be interesting after what happened in Austria. Quick recap. So obviously you're better off behind your teammate on track in qualifying to be able to be in the slipstream. And the car in front generally doesn't go so well. And essentially, but there's also dirty air, so it's a bit of a mix-up. And Verstappen and Ricciardo were arguing over who could be in front in Austria. and it was very public over the team radio, so it'll be interesting to see how Christian Horner and the whole team deal with that this weekend. And I guess Ricciardo will be looking for a better weekend overall. He was upset with the team at the weekend in Austria, and also obviously reliability as well. And especially with contract talks ongoing, will another bad race be the straw on the camel's back, or whatever the phrase is that they use in commentary, and make him want to go to another team? I'm sure he'd be welcome at Ferrari or Mercedes if he wanted to go there. So it's all something that could play out over the next couple of weeks, and possibly at Silverstone. Despite a difficult race at the Austrian Grand Prix, Renault still managed to hold onto P4 in the Constructors' Championship, although Haas are very much now on their tail. Austria didn't end well for the French team, of course, with Hülkenberg's engine failure, and Sainz had an awful pit stop, and they'll be hoping for an improvement at the British Grand Prix. Sainz has had a poor race at Silverstone last year. Of course, he crashed with his Toro Rosso teammate Daniel Kvyat on the first lap, but I guess it's not as bad as the Renault driver at that time, Jolyon Palmer, who was at his home race and did not even make the start with some kind of failure on the formation lap. Really unlucky for him there, that's for sure. But Renault did get an upgrade over the last couple of weeks, and they'll be hoping it will finally turn good for them at the British Grand Prix. Haas finally came good at the Austrian Grand Prix, getting 4th and 5th. Of course, there was quite a high attrition rate with the top drivers, which boosted them up a bit, but they finally got double points, which they missed out on in Australia. So, I don't know, are they going to be consistent? I guess that's where Haas have really struggled. It's been very rare where both drivers have had a solid weekend, and by both drivers I mainly mean Grosjean has been letting them down quite a bit, and he did improve his form at the last Grand Prix, no doubt about that, and I guess that form is going to need to continue if Haas really want to be challenging for P4 in the Constructors for the rest of the season. But we know they got a good car. Of course, there's lots to talk about them copying Ferrari's 2017 car, but it doesn't matter. They've got a good car, that's the point. But can they be consistent? And I guess Silverstone will be a good test whether they can be consistent enough in the hot, sunny conditions that Britain has at the moment. One of the biggest stories going into this weekend's British Grand Prix is our home favourite team, McLaren's boss, Eric Boullier, has left the company and the team. We don't know if he jumped before he was pushed, but I believe officially he resigned. And look, ultimately McLaren have not been good enough this season or the last few seasons. I guess McLaren had been able to blame their misfortune on the Honda engine power units, but that's not a thing this season. Red Bull have the same engine as them and won the Austrian Grand Prix. McLaren was struggling, so they haven't been good enough, and it's quite right that Eric Boullier should leave as basically head of racing at McLaren. And something has been very wrong at McLaren for the last few years. I'd say since Lewis Hamilton left, it's all gone downhill. And I guess Boullier is part of that. But at their home race, McLaren will be hoping for a strong performance from Fernando Alonso and Stoffel van Dorn. Of course, loads of British people support McLaren. I would say, even though I'm a Hamilton fan, my favourite constructor in F1 is McLaren, and I really hope they can score some good points this weekend. Van Dorn is coming under some criticism for not being in the points enough, but I would say if you look at some of his races, he has been making up loads of positions during some of these races, but it's because he's out of the points, there's not been much attention on his progress. But it will be, nonetheless, very interesting to see how he does this weekend. Force India are another team celebrating their home race. It's very much their home race, considering their car is produced at Silverstone, just around the corner from the circuit. So it is very much a track they're going to want to be doing well at, I guess. And they do tend to do pretty well at Silverstone. They got double points there last season. I remember in 2015 they did particularly well. I remember that. I don't know why. And I guess they'll be hoping for a repeat result to boost them in the Constructors' Championship. They have improved a lot over the season. Do you remember in Australia they were right at the back of the grid with Williams, and now they're very much in the midfield fight. So they are developing quickly this season, and they'll be hoping that pattern continues at this weekend's British Grand Prix. Now, Toro Rosso did have a pretty difficult Austrian Grand Prix, and will be hoping for an improvement this weekend, and will certainly want the British Grand Prix to go better than the British Grand Prix last year, where, as I mentioned before, their two drivers, Carlos Sainz and Daniel Kvyat, crashed into each other. But of course, there's new drivers at the team, so they'll be hoping for a much better performance this weekend. Brendan Hartley does need to start performing in comparison to Pierre Gasly if he wants to be at the team next season, because we know the Red Bull program is tough, and there's still lots of gossip about him possibly not being there next season. But I don't really know who could replace him. Who would you guys like to see driving a Toro Rosso next season, maybe later this season? I would love to see Robert Kubica given a chance for a whole season, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one. But Pierre Gasly is doing well, and Brendan Hartley really needs to match him. We know he's got the skill, but can he do it in the Grand Prix? Only time will tell, I guess. Now, Sauber, of course, are probably outperforming our expectations of them. Double points yet again in Austria, and we should now be expecting them to score points most weekend. There's so much attention on the clerk at the moment. Will it be a Ferrari next season? I told you what I thought earlier in the video, and I guess it's something where if he keeps performing, those rumours are going to gather momentum, and they could come true. But Sauber Alfa Romeo are very much now a midfield team in Formula 1. Finally, Williams are celebrating their home race, but it's not going to be much of a celebration because they're probably going to be at the back of the field, as always this season, and they really do need significant improvement, but something tells me it's not going to be coming this weekend. So yeah guys, I hope you enjoyed the Grand Prix. I hope you enjoyed this video as well, and I'll see you guys next time, and I'll be previewing the 2018 German Grand Prix.